Strap in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds. What's up, family? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I'm your host, David Lawrence. Thank you for putting me in your ears today. Please know I greatly appreciate it. Before we get started, just a reminder to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us on YouTube Music. We are at the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. You can follow us on X, IG, and now we're on Blue Sky as well. So definitely make sure you give us a like, follow us for plenty of content that'll be coming in the weeks and months ahead. During my Rolex 24 coverage, you heard me give a little nod to the pit reporters, both in radio and in TV, as they kind of help us to paint the picture and tell the story of how the races happen. I want to expand a little bit on that today because I don't know if you are not familiar with the media landscape and at least the major North American motorsports of NASCAR and Indycar. They're going through a lot of changes in 2025. Indycar is now have a new exclusive television partner with Fox Sports, and NASCAR has brought a few new broadcasters in the form of Amazon Prime Video and TNT to help bring their coverage starting this year. So with that being said, there's a lot of new opportunities out there in the space. And as of this recording, most, if not all of the booth talent, at least, is confirmed. I won't recap everything. I will shout out Eric Estep and Out of the Groove on his YouTube channel. He did a really nice broadcast primer, at least for NASCAR. So I definitely highly recommend you check his video out on that. But one thing that wasn't mentioned that we kind of now have some insight on is the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. We know Jamie Little will call the season opener at Daytona February 14th. Her booth mates will be Kevin Harvick, who is one of the Cup analysts at Fox, and Cup Series champion Joey Logano will be a guest analyst, kind of going back to what Fox used with the Xfinity Series when they had rights to the coverage. A rotating analyst chair of current Cup stars basically sitting in and giving their input, and it looks like they're going to bring that to the Truck Series. Phil Parsons is still going to be around, and Michael Waltrip as well. Parsons will basically be working with Little and Trevor Bayne on the ARCA coverage for most of the year, while Michael Waltrip will basically primarily be part of the Cup pre-race coverage for Fox and FS1 throughout the year. However, pit reporters, from my standpoint, there's a few more questions in that ballpark. So real quick, here's what we know right now. First, let's start with Fox. We know Jamie Little will be a pit reporter for the Cup broadcast. Reagan Smith will be doing pit reporting, it looks like, for both Trucks and Cup. Same for Josh Sims. And then there is Amanda Busick, who was doing Trucks for Fox last year. Looks like she's back to do that. Caitlin Vincey looks like she's going to be pit reporting. I know for Daytona she'll do the ARCA coverage. And she took to socials to confirm that she'll be returning to pit lane. At the time, she didn't say which series she would do, but it looks like she'll be on the ARCA tour for Fox on the pit road this season. For the CW, which is going to be the exclusive home of the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year, we have Dylan Welch and Kim Coon, two prominent voices. If you're on the radio side, you remember those two from the Motor Racing Network and NBC. Speaking of NBC, expect them to kind of have their rotation, especially through the first half of their now 14 race slate. through August, September, and likely October, thanks to NBC also being the IMSA broadcaster. That rotation will include Marty Snyder, Dave Burns, the aforementioned Welch and Kuhn, and also Parker Kligerman, who, of course, has been confirmed to the CW booth on Saturdays. However, there is one major piece to the puzzle that's still yet to be confirmed, and that is who will do pit reporting for Amazon Prime and TNT. If you are in the dark, Amazon and TNT will both have the same booth. Adam Alexander, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Steve Letarte for all 10 races. Amazon Prime's races will at least have Daniel Trotta and Corey LaJoie doing pre-race from the track, which is a very positive sign, if I should say. But no news on who will be their pit reporters. I do expect Amazon Prime and TNT to kind of have the same approach as they did with the booth. They'll probably keep the same talent that they'll use on pit road across both networks for their 10 race stretch throughout the summer. Interestingly enough, this is not just something unique to NASCAR. Fox also has yet to reveal their pit reporter crew for Indycar, and I might want to get a little footloose and fancy with the speculations a little bit. Just like NASCAR, NBC also had a revolving door thanks to their IMSA commitments, and that revolving door included Kevin Lee, Dylan Welch, Marty Snyder, Dave Burns, and towards the end of the season, Georgia Henneberry, who did a lot of radio work for Indycar Radio Network and also the Motor Racing Network on the NASCAR side on occasion. So I'm definitely interested to see who Fox likely will bring on for their IndyCar pit road crew. Of course, they've already announced their booth. Will Buxton, who a lot of Americans know from his Formula One coverage, first when Fox owned Speed back in 2010, when he was the pit reporter for Formula One for Speed, and then NBC, and then, of course, went on to be employed by Liberty Media, and then became the face of, well, not the face, but the voice of Drive to Survive, in addition to doing F1 TV. If you were a YouTube subscriber of the Formula One channel on the site, Buxton hosted Weekend Warm-Up, and then on occasion the Sunday post-race show that was also streamed live on YouTube as well. Buxton, of course, joined by two men who need no introduction to IndyCar fans. Of course, that's Townsend Bell and James Hinchcliffe. Of course, Hinch and Buxton have worked together throughout Hinch's cameos on the F1 side. So basically, no strangers. And of course, Buxton's worked pit row for IndyCar before when he was working at NBC. So I say all that to say, who's going to be on Fox's IndyCar pit reporter lineup? Well, I want to speculate a little bit that. Ideally, you got to bring Kevin Lee. I'm sorry. There just isn't any other way around it. Lee is far too knowledgeable about IndyCar. He's been on the circuit working with the IMS radio network and has been part of NBC's IndyCar coverage since 2011, back when the network was known as Versus before it became NBCSN. So safe to say, Lee has been around the IndyCar paddock for a long time, and I honestly don't see why Fox won't move to make Lee a prominent part of their IndyCar broadcast for this year. I also think Georgia Henneberry should be highly considered for the role and opportunity. Like we said, she too has been a part of the IndyCar radio network, and she also has the experience of the TV side. Recently doing NBC for 2024, and she also did, I think, a race or two in 2023 as well. But definitely, I think those two should make the nucleus of the lineup. Who else? usually there's at least 3 pit reporters, and I think we could see some names that come out of left field that we didn't see coming. Could someone from the Indycar Radio Network be brought over to the TV side, which would be very interesting? Could somebody be brought over from another network? We could see somebody make their big break with IndyCar on Fox. We never truly honestly will know until Fox makes the announcement and says, hey, these will be our pit reporters for the new season. Or we could just see Fox do what NBC has done in the past and just have a rotating cast of characters, and maybe Lee and Henneberry could serve as the anchors. Who knows? Reason I bring that option up is, of course, the Indy 500 is coming to Fox for the first time in 2025. And while this is a show basically focused primarily on pit reporters and who might be where, I do want to talk a little bit about Fox's Indy 500 coverage, who could possibly be a part of that. The first name I think comes to mind is Jamie Little. Little has done the 500 before when the race was on ESPN. So I wouldn't be surprised if she gets the call up to work the 500 for the network again. Possibly unlikely because she does call the Truck Series, and the Truck Series does race that weekend. Although I'm pretty sure Fox would love to prioritize the 500. I'm pretty sure they would love to move some pieces around, bring someone else in to fill in for Little while she does pit reporting duties for the 500. And as for the role of host, I could see this going one of 3 ways. This first one's a little bit inspired by what NBC's done the last couple of years, and you can't help but to think of him because he is the voice of the network in so many ways, from their now lead NFL voice. He's hosted their World Series coverage, and I'm, of course, talking about Kevin Burkhardt. Burkhardt has not been known to be the biggest racing fan, but if you really want more eyes on what is Fox's now new shiny toy, I don't see why you cannot have Burkhardt in that conversation. Like we said, Tirico was NBC's host of the 500 for 6 years, so I can definitely see this going the way of Kevin Burkhardt. Another viable option, which I definitely think will be a little bit more likely, especially considering how he's done his essays and how involved he is with the Daytona 500 coverage, Tom Rinaldi. Rinaldi was included in the 500 coverage when ESPN had it on ABC up to 2018, so it wouldn't be much of a surprise to see Rinaldi being brought back. And like we said, with him already having a background working with NASCAR Productions on some of the stuff that NASCAR and Fox have worked on together, that one wouldn't be a surprise for me as well. The third option, and I know I've mentioned this name already, maybe Jamie Little is host of the 500 instead of being a pit reporter for the race. Again, not out of the realm of possibility. As we've already mentioned, she is the play-by-play voice for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series for the network. She's very familiar with the Indy 500. She is an Indianapolis native. In short, to say Jamie Little will not be part of Fox's Indy 500 coverage in any capacity would be very naive to say. And honestly, I will be very surprised if she's not on the roster in some capacity, whether it's host or pit reporter, come Memorial Day weekend. Frankly, I would love to speculate all day about who could fill some of these open pit reporter jobs when it comes to Amazon Prime and TNT, when it comes to IndyCar's Fox coverage. I mean, hey, I could go up and down all day. There's so many great people who deserve a shot, not just in TV, but in radio, that would love to get a crack at the TV side of the house. Too many names to mention in this episode, but at the same token, you can't help but to think at least one name is going to be that out of left field, we didn't see this coming type of announcement. But like I mentioned earlier, I hope at least whether it be either Amazon Prime and TNT or Fox, I really hope they give at least one person, and I mentioned this earlier, I really hope we get to see a newcomer. Don't get me wrong, I love to see the established faces come back, get another opportunity to do what they love best and live out their passion and live out their dreams. But I also know there are some others who are hoping to live their dreams out. And crossing my fingers, whether it be in St. Pete when Fox kicks off their schedule in March, or the Coke 600 when Prime takes over the NASCAR schedule, we will finally see someone relishing and taking advantage of the chance of a lifetime. Well, you guys, that will wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for joining me as I talk a little bit about the status of pit reporter jobs and who might just fill them for this upcoming motorsport season. Can't wait to see who does get the nods at Amazon Prime and TNT for those jobs. I also can't wait to hear, hopefully later this month, who Fox decides will man the pits for them in IndyCar this upcoming season. I'll even ask you guys, who do you think will be a pit reporter for Fox or for Amazon, for TNT, or who would you like to see be a pit reporter at all? Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Again, thank you guys so much for putting me in your ears today. As always, I greatly appreciate it. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and subscribe and like and share our podcast on YouTube Music. It will go a long way to helping others find the podcast as well. And remember, you can follow us on X, IG, and we're now on Blue Sky, all at the handle NSJQ Podcast. You can also follow me on my personal socials. I will put the handles to those in the description box to this episode. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I'm David Lawrence. We'll see you next time. Until then, remember, you're not living life to the fullest until you're going flat out. So long, everyone.